Well, thanks for staying tuned to Morning Express. The images greeting your screen have become a recurring decimal across 31 airports in Nigeria. Dating to pre-election time before the 2023 general elections, where a passenger was famously chanting obedience while expressing unruly conduct while on board the flight. The most recent clip you saw was from yesterday, a passenger on board an Ibom Air flight from Uyo to Lagos, also expressing unruly behavior, having been instructed to turn off her phone before the plane was set to land, resulted into that scuffle you saw over there. Is it that we do not have regulations in the airspace is a big question. Are the penalties not stiff enough? Are passengers not aware of their responsibilities as well as their rights? These are common questions asked by Nigerians. Now, the agency of government saddled with the responsibility of regulating the aviation space, the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, despite its proactiveness, has been met with this backlog of incidences and a call from the public to be transparent in the way they go about their operations. This morning on the program, I have with me in the studio a team from the NCAA, led by the Director of Public Affairs and Consumer Protection, a man dubbed as the spokesperson. Even the artificial intelligence bot on X reckons that he is prompt on his duty, very meticulous in his dispatch of his duty, almost like a customer agent online attending to complaints. Seated in the studio next to me is Mr. Michael Achumugu. Good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning. Hello, viewers.
Well, Mr. Michael Achumugu is not alone. He's also seated next to his colleague, the delectable, beautiful Ifueko Abdulmalik, who is the Assistant General Manager, Flight Operations and Adjudication, NCAA. Ifueko, good morning to you and welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for having us here.
One thing I do not do is envy your role at a time like this. What a way to intro the program. It kind of paints the light that we have quite a number of unruly members of the flying public. Although some take to social media to also interact with you and voice out their complaints about airline behavior, like we see taxiing through airports to pick up and drop off passengers. In a summary, how cumbersome has been your responsibility attending to these complaints, and even the most recent, some Nigerians asking that the NCAA arrest such persons?
We are going through what one may call a pandemic or an epidemic of unruly passenger behavior at the moment. It's not unexpected. It happens all over the world. We don't want it to happen here. You know, it's not palatable. It's not ideal. We are going to nip it in the bud. Of course, there's no distance in Nigeria by flight that lasts up to 2 hours. So it's a little bit of a shocker when passengers are unable to obey simple instructions like switch off your phone before takeoff and before landing. These rules and regulations are made for your safety, you know, and the safety of other passengers. People need to understand that when you fly, you are not alone on that flight. Your personal opinion is not all that matters. You abide by the rules, and it's not so difficult, you know. We're going through it, but I like the challenge of it, you know, because the system is being tested. When the system gets tested this way, we are able to identify where the gaps are, and then we can proactively deal with them, so we can get better ratings in future audits, and also be able to build an industry that's operating at world-class standards. I am very pained by some of these things because, again, it makes nonsense. It diminishes the good work that the Honorable Minister of Aviation has done so far. We met an ailing industry, and we have been peeling back the layers, trying to make this industry much better. We have made significant strides, achieved a whole lot in a short time. We don't want this to be continue to be diminished by acts like this. What the young lady on Ibom Air did is inexcusable. But we'll follow due process as usual.
Now we'll come back to the work the Honorable Minister of Aviation is doing shortly. He's gone public with certain sanctions that have also been meted against some passengers. But let me come to Ifueko. You're an adjudicator of flight operations.
Yeah.
One of the complaints coming in is finding a balance between unruly behavior by the passengers and the airlines that have some, would I call it, sharp practices in the way they go about their operations. How does your office find this balance in attending to complaints?
Well, what would you term sharp practices first?
Now, reacting to one of those images, the behavior of taxiing through airports with the guise of dropping off some member of staff. Meanwhile, they have to pick up and drop off passengers. Borrowing from the words of Tacha there, she said they have become the new downfall of the airlines. I don't want to mention the airline in question from her claims though, but that's what I'm talking about when I say sharp practices.
Okay. So airlines have an obligation to inform passengers. So for instance, there's a flight from Abuja to Lagos and then they have to divert to another airport. The airline should inform passengers of this diversion before taking off from the departure point, right? Passengers should know these things. And really, most times this happens is because there's really an issue. It's not just because the airline just wants to go through another state, another destination, right? So there must be a reason, probably technical, like I said, to drop off crew and other, or weather condition at point of arrival and things like that. So these things don't happen just because they want to happen, but the airline should inform passengers. And then when passengers have information, it makes it easier. So they're a lot calmer, they don't have to be disruptive and things like that. So that is an area we really need to look into and ensure that airlines fulfill their obligations to passengers.
We'll come back to you in terms of the responsibilities and the rights of passengers, but let me come back to you. Off the back of the minister's most recent public statement, in line of what I call him King Wasiu, he went viral. Knowledge available to us is that he was already on board the flight, sipping from his flask. Now, we've seen 6 months no flight ban for both domestic and international airports. He's issued an apology, which we might look at in the course of the program. But the minister seems to also have a stand position on his vision for the industry. In your comments, you've said he's been on hand. Many were questioning if it would be obtainable in other airports internationally for such a behavior that probably wouldn't have seen the Fuji musician in cuffs. I don't know if there's been a disposition in how the NCAA and the Office of the Minister treats these different incidences.
Well, the minister's position aligns with that of the CAA. The CAA offers technical advice to the Honorable Minister. The minister supervises the entire industry and has a right to make these statements. It's possible that in some other airports, other climes, the passenger, Kwam 1, would have been in handcuffs. But this is down to the moments. The airport security have the right to, look at the situation in that particular instance and make what they feel is the best decision. Usually, especially airside, when these incidents are happening airside, their first go-to is to de-escalate the situation, because you do not want people destroying anything on an aircraft. In Nigeria, especially where we have very few aircraft, we're managing, we have a capacity problem. We have reiterated this point over and over again, so you don't want, like the Ibom Air lady yesterday, she had waited for every other passenger to deboard, then she started that act of violence. At the point in which she was physically removed from the aircraft was when she was going to, force out the fire extinguisher to attack, someone she had already been slapping prior to that time. And by the way, I must first of all say kudos to the Ibom Air crew member. She was, for her composure, for her restraint. She is not a child. When you slap someone repeatedly like that, force their wig off their hair, most people would react. But she stayed true to her training.
Yeah.
Yes. This training she stayed true to is what one would have expected of the pilot as well in the Kwam 1 issue.
Now you've touched on the pilot's role in the Kwam 1 incidents. It's been from the angle of also, if I get it correctly, a suspension for her and her co-pilot on the flight.
Yes.
Let's understand the rationale behind that punishment.
It's not punishment, it's standard.
That's the protocol.
Yes, that's the protocol. Because, yes, there's provocation, but her training does not permit her to do that. Now, for the authorities, you want to know, is this how she should respond to every act of provocation? If so, it makes a safety risk for passengers as well, and for, of course, the aircraft, right? So, like I said the other day, when being unruly doesn't automatically qualify a passenger to be killed. If Kwam had not docked at the time he did and he had died, do you think he'll sit down here speaking about his unruly behavior? The people defending the pilot today who think this is undue punishment would have been calling for her head. So the protocol will be to look, there should be a psychological evaluation. Is it that every time you get angry, the next time another passenger offends her, what's she going to do? So are you going to keep weaponizing your aircraft every time you get angry? Or was this just a one-off? Because she's a human being, really. And every human being can get angry every once in a while, right? But you have a training. This was why earlier in the year, when we had the issue with Kenya Airways, we did not accept that there was any justifiable reason for the behavior of the staff of the airline who kept insulting both Nigeria and Nigeria's president because of an unruly passenger. People are trained for these things, and there's no excuses for them. So it's not punishment for the standard practice.
Thanks for the clarification. Another question on my mind is the role of the aviation security, because as much as we saw in these videos, there were efforts by men on ground to de-escalate it, much like you've said. But in the event that it gets to that extreme, what are some of the protocols that they can also explore if it's getting unruly?
Look, I'm not going to sit down here and defend everything from the government side of things. We do have our own issues as well that need touch lighting. Yeah. In all of these videos, people have asked questions. Where was aviation security? And where they were present, how is their handling processes, for situations like this? In some cases, you find out they didn't come at all, or they came too late, or even while they were there, they gave too much time, for the crisis to escalate before they took any sort of action. We want to see tactical improvement in the way aviation security responds to some of these issues. I trust the FAN MD, Ms. Olubimi Kuku. She's a very proactive woman who has brought a lot of improvement to the industry and to the way FAN works. We have spoken with her, we've exchanged ideas, and I know she is also internally dealing with this situation. FAN have been doing great for a while. Of course, though, once in a while we'll find lapses here and there. That's why I appreciate that the system is being tested so that we can find out the areas where we need to improve, and we will deal with them. We don't have a choice anyways.
Well, quite objective. He says he's not going to make excuses for the government in entirety. Let's come back to the people, and I'll come back to you, Fueko. When it comes to obligations of passengers towards airlines and instructions given on board a flight or even before departing, where do we draw the line between responsibility and rights?
On board the aircraft, passengers must obey the cabin crew. There is no drawing the line there. You must obey the cabin crew. That's what the rule says. And once you don't do that, you are termed unruly. And there lies the implications.
Can you tell us some of those implications?
Like being put on the no-flight list, the prosecution and all of that. Of course you'll be deboarded. You won't be able to make that flight again. You could be arrested, prosecuted, put on a no-fly list, you can banned for maybe some months and all of that, or pay fines.
Now it may seem as though there is a gap between the awareness of the flying public with this very stiff penalties that you have enumerated. How do we bridge this gap?
Well, we've had a lot of sensitizations and enlightenment campaigns, but one thing we need to reiterate all the time is when you purchase a ticket, you must read the conditions of carriage. Therein lies the rules, the regulations, your entitlements, your obligations for that travel. So you, in the conditions of carriage, you can see, the cutoff times for check-in, boarding, and all of that. What you're entitled to, what you should bring on board, how you should go through screening, the baggage, your baggage allowance, and things like that. It's important for passengers to understand the conditions of carriage. I believe that once you know these rules, the disruptions to your travels are limited. You know, the conditions shows everything you should know concerning that travel. You know, security checks, baggage allowance, what you should carry on board, when you should be at the boarding gate, when you should be at the check-in counter, and all of that, what you should do on board. You know, passengers need to understand these rules. People buy tickets and don't really read the conditions. They don't know, you know, what's attached to their travels. They go on board the aircraft and just expect that once you get into the airport, you go on your flight and then that's it. Once you're on board the aircraft, there are things you shouldn't do. You shouldn't interrupt with the cabin crew. You should obey instructions. When they say turn off your phones, you must turn off your phones. When they say put on your seatbelt must be on up until when, you know, it's indicated that you can turn off your seatbelts. You don't disrupt the flight, because it's, you know, safety is the watchword. You cannot, you know, you cannot be unruly on board the aircraft. There are other passengers on board you should consider, and of course the pilot in charge is concerned for the safe operation of that flight. So anybody that will be a disruption to the smooth operation of that flight is unruly and may be deboarded immediately.
Well, thank you, Fueko. I'll come back to you, Mr. Michael. It's on the notion that Nigerians have a tendency of being better behaved on international airlines in other parts of the country. But here in Nigeria, even before the plane lands, they begin to unbuckle their seatbelts. They want to be the first out of the aircraft. Is this a notion we should come to normalize as being normal here? Or is it a Nigerian factor? She's called for more enlightenments in the efforts that are already on ground. What's your take on a better way to address this?
First of all, I don't agree that passengers are not aware of their rights and responsibilities. In 2024, the NCAA had the highest volume of stakeholder engagement in its history. We're across all regions in Nigeria. We're at the various airport terminals, roadworks, you know, passenger education. We're on television. We're here on more than a few occasions, you know, and other stations as well. We're on radio. We're in all of the newspapers. You know that we are heavy on social media. I am awake 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. responding to passenger complaints and inquiries. We have our consumer protection officers physically present at every airport terminal. What excuse do people have to say that they are not aware? There's not 100 million flying Nigerians. Most Nigerian traveling air passengers are repeat travelers who have encountered one issue or the other at different points and have had those issues resolved. People know where to go now. So I don't accept that's the excuse. Of course, we'll continue, because awareness is a continuum. It doesn't end anywhere in the world, even in the so-called more advanced countries. But you see, culturally, you even have to be self-respecting. You have to ask yourself, is it okay for my kids or my family to see videos of me in this context? We have this thing where we diminish Nigerian laws. We don't appreciate what is ours. We are building institutions. We are not respecting those institutions, but we want the institutions to be accountable. I don't believe that it makes sense. At some point, passengers need to start speaking to themselves. This does not discount the fact that unruly passenger behavior happens anywhere across. Trust me, there are videos of worse than this from the major countries around the world. But we don't want that happening here. It should not be our thing. More so, for like you have stated, that these same passengers, when they travel abroad, they behave themselves. So why do we look down on our own? There has to. I'm pushing for an interagency, you know, collaboration. The NCAA Consumer Protection Unit, you know, and Nigeria National Orientation Agency, Ministry of Information, you know, FAN, and all the other service providers. We need to come together, including the AON, the airline operators. You know, we need to come together, you know, and you know, be massive about sensitization. But beyond sensitization, there has to be enforcement. There has to be ramifications for such unruly behavior. Only then, perhaps, will people begin. But you know, why must it get there?
Mr. Michael, talking about these ramifications, I think they should also be made public. I believe one of the questions that came to mind when we're going through the files, the pre-election one that involved that man's criminal obedience. I know as much as there might have been ramifications, I don't think it's been publicly covered as to this was what he faced as his punishment.
I wasn't with the NCAA when that happened,
yes,
so
yes,
I'm not aware the status of that case. I'm aware that the case of Chiamaka Don Ubani on Ibom Air again, incidentally, not too long ago, that case is in court. The airline sued to court. In fact, it's not even the airline; it's the state versus that passenger. And I'm aware that yesterday's incident is also going to court by the airline. The NCAA does not have the powers to prosecute passengers. Our duty is to educate, to regulate. This morning I was thinking about mobile courts. When I get back to the office, I want to speak with legal and see, did we used to have, were there mobile courts at the
like
airport?
we have for road users?
Yes, in the past. If they were, why are they no longer there? And if they never have been, then there should be, so that some of these cases can be tried immediately and justice administered accordingly. But again, sometimes the problem with such scenarios is, some cases might not get properly investigated and you may sentence people wrongly. You don't want that. You want people to have fair hearing. And it's that process of fair hearing that makes people think that most cases have been swept under the carpet. The cases have not been swept under the carpet. There are processes ongoing. Like the Senator Shomole case is still ongoing. We have interviewed the senator. We are speaking next week with the airline and other eyewitnesses. So even the Kwam case, as you are aware, it's been escalated to the Attorney General and the IGP. So these cases are ongoing. But again, when one case comes, it goes viral. There's a lot of talk around it. If you don't respond, the public is wondering why. So you have to respond. When you responded and calmed frayed nerves, the other cases come up. You have to move on and be dealing with them. While a court process is ongoing, I don't have the right to
speak
preempt.
Yes.
So that is why people think that they are not swept under the carpet.
And I'll come back to you, Fueko. As an adjudicator, he's talked about ways to seek redress without having to get into fisticuffs and scuffles. Your responsibility is enlightenment. I'd like for you to take the liberty to once again remind our viewers of ways they can seek redress without having to exchange blows at the airports in Nigeria.
Well, first of all, if you have a problem with the airline or a service provider, you should look for the airline customer service managers at the airport, or the service provider customer service managers at the airport. Otherwise, you can look out for the NCAA consumer protection officers. We are at 23 airports in Nigeria. We have consumer protection offices at the airport, or you could send an email to cpd@nca.gov.ng, or we have a consumer protection portal, cpd.nca.gov.ng. You can call us at 0905 5029 506 and send an email, or just walk into our offices and make your complaints. Our officers are there to listen, take your complaints, go with you to the airline, resolve your complaints. You don't have to fight. You don't have to be unruly at the airports or on board the aircraft.
Well, thank you very much, Ifueko. Well, you've been reminded about the channels in which you can seek redress and express your disgruntlement over whatever incidences you experience during your travels across the 31 airports in Nigeria. However, at this point, some passengers more or less have a rethought, become sober after the incidents. They take to social media to issue apologies. Do these apologies cut it? Mr. Michael has stated that some of these processes will go through the legal means, and it's not as if they're swept under the rug. In light with the Kwam 1 incidents, the top Fuji musician King Wasiu Oyewande has taken to social media to issue an apology. The apology has gone viral. We'll take a listen to it, and then we'll come back to if it holds weight enough to dissuade the actions that might follow his behavior on board ValueJet. Take a listen.
Good afternoon, gentlemen and ladies of the press here present. My name is Olasukomi Inde Marshall, also known as K1 the Ultimate. I am here to make clarification of the incident that happened on the 5th of August 2025 at Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport local wing, while about to board aircraft from Abuja to Lagos. The incident is highly regrettable because I have contributed the better part of my life in the past 50 years to the growth and development of Nigeria, my country, art and culture, both in and out of the country. I've been a good ambassador of this great nation, in and out, in very many ways. Somebody like me should not be found in such incidents. I accept responsibility and appealing to Mr. President, the country, the Honorable Minister for Aviation, the FAAN, the NCAA, and my fans across the globe to please pardon my behavior. Number one, good afternoon, gentlemen and ladies of the press here present. My name is Kwam Marshall, also known as.
Well, the appeal is made public by the Fuji musician now, as one that calls for a little bit of leniency in his opinion. I'll come back to you, Mr. Michael, this morning. He's calling for leniency, citing his track record of his contributions to culture and music in the Nigerian space, and also saying he's been a good ambassador over time. Does this excuse his behavior? Does this also more or less lighten the probable prosecutions or punishments that might follow?
No, that's not my call to make. Neither is it the call of the NCAA at this point. Petitions have been, served, submitted to the Attorney General and the Inspector General of Police. It's a criminal case. It's their purview now, so it's not my decision. I cannot preempt their decisions in this case.
Well, quite interestingly, now this is one of the apologies that have quite rightly been issued in the public space. Before now, there was also a disclaimer issued by his management on social media. We're not going into the details of all of that. But it's on the notion that there might be a disparity in class. And whilst this disparity is one we cannot argue, it doesn't make excuse for anyone. But in the face of the law, much like you said, are all the flying members of the public equal? And would they be treated with the same processes when incidences like this occur?
Absolutely. The laws are for everybody. Mr. President, His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, submits himself to safety and security protocols at the airport. And so does the Honorable Minister, Festus Keyamo San, and even the DGCA himself, Captain Chris Najomo. These three people, even the FAN MD, these four people could just simply flash their ID cards and pass. But they don't do that. They respect and obey the protocols. If they can do so, no Nigerian is above the law. Not just Nigerians, it's a global thing. Nobody, even the American president, is not above the law in this regard. It's for your safety. Because if you are allowed to get away with these things all of the time, the next time another passenger does it, you lack the moral high ground to complain, and it could be fatal. It could end up, fatally. So it is inexcusable. Post 9/11, these protocols have become more stringent. But it's for safety, because if these protocols had existed pre 9/11, perhaps some of those incidents would not have occurred. And that is why I call the International Civil Aviation Organization, regularly, upgrades, updates these protocols for safety. In aviation, safety first, before even before comfort. Safety first. So sometimes you may find personally some of these rules inconvenient, but for the sake of safety. You must comply.
Now he's reiterated safety is paramount. As the Assistant General Manager, Flight Operations and Adjudicator at the NCAA, I'd like to talk about some of the incidences, runway skid-offs, like we've seen them. The other day, someone was calling it to our attention that some of the aircraft that had suffered some of these incidences, a few of them are still around particular airports in Nigeria. I don't know if this is correct. And if this is the case, is the NCAA taking any steps to ensure that those aircraft are taken off the shoulders of the runway, like was the case that was just pointed out?
Oh, absolutely. I know that NCAA would definitely ensure that the aircrafts are taken off the runway, at least, of course, for safety reasons and all of that. That's something that would definitely happen if it still exists. Yes.
I'll come back to you, Mr. Michael, on safety now proper.
Before that, recently Ifeko and a couple of other officers were promoted. She's not Deputy General Manager, not Assistant General Manager.
I apologize. I'll be corrected on that. Now, coming back to you on safety, particularly with airline operations, is a good thing. We're very thankful. There have been very few incidences here and there for skid-offs, but overall, you've talked about ICAO's role in this. How would you appraise the efforts of all the agencies involved?
In Nigeria?
In Nigeria.
Near excellent. Recently, Nigeria's rating in global aviation has been on the rise. Was that USOP or what was it? Yeah, the last audit we had, it was a very impressive 71%. You know, from a possible 30%. Because if the Honorable Minister, the FANMD, and the DGCA had not done the things they had done, our rating would have been very low, very, very low. Recently as well, the Aviation Working Group increased Nigeria's rating from 40-something to over 70%. And this is why new aircraft are going to be leased to Nigerian airlines now, because the international community now has faith and and trust in the industry here, because of the work that the Honorable Minister, leading these agencies have been able to put in a short while. That's why the Minister announced recently that very shortly and in the coming weeks, new aircraft are coming to Nigeria.
Now this is an important topic because the cost of flying on board any airline in Nigeria now has risen quite astronomically. A lot of emphasis is on shortage of aircraft, like you said. People have talked about aviation fuel. I wonder, is there any role of the NCAA in checking the price pegging by this airline in terms of consumer protection?
Airfares are not regulated anywhere in the world. There's no CAA in the world that will call an airline and say, why are you charging this fare? My friend, reduce it to so figure. Nobody does that. It's down to market forces. The minister has reiterated that only fair competition, will help to bring down prices. But beyond that as well, there's the issue of multiple taxations, and the conversations have been ongoing. Is it possible to reduce some of these taxes, cancel some of them outrightly, and all of that. Progress is being made, but again, when you even compare to the rates in most other parts of the world, I don't think it's that. I don't know if it's that high, but of course, sometimes there are maybe for routes where only one airline is operating, they have monopoly. They increase the rate. It's a marketing thing, it's demand and supply, But for our advice for now, that for route you're traveling where there are other options, go for the options that
that suits your pockets.
Yes, but these conversations are ongoing, and that's the most important thing, that the minister is listening, the authority is listening, But generally, I need passengers to understand that nobody regulates airfares.
Well, quite interestingly, let me come back to you, Ifweko. Congrats once again on your promotion. I know you've talked about sensitization efforts on ground to intimate Nigerian flying public about this, regulations, rights, and whatnot. Is it an ongoing process? Are there rooms for partnership with media organizations like ours to have this message more out there?
It's a continuous process. It's non-stop. And of course, we've had engagements with media outlets. We've had engagements with celebrities and all of that to ensure that, everybody, it's a hands-on thing. We want everybody involved. We want people to know, we want to reach the public in every means, via any means possible. We want people to understand that, flying can be easier. We want to ensure that the experience for people traveling in Nigeria is better than what it used to be. We want to reach the public and tell them what they should know. People buy tickets, like I said earlier, buy tickets and don't know the terms and conditions, don't know what they should do, when they should arrive at the airport and all of that. So we want to ensure that we reach our passengers or the passengers via any means possible. So it's a continuous process. We are open to all options available to ensure that we reach the right people.
Now, Mr. Michael, I'll come back to you, and it's on comments of the minister at the most recent Federal Executive Council meeting. One of those headlines that what I see Nigerians reacted to the most was the sums voted for the rehabilitations of parts of the Lagos airport and Kano airports. We had looked at some of the footages in terms of the facility and infrastructure and the fact that they've been around for quite a while, dilapidated, But the word reconstruction and rebuilding has caused quite a debate amongst Nigerians. Figures are around 750 billion thereabouts. In your honest opinion, and I'd like first-hand information now, is it a rebuilding? Is it a reconstruction? What's the technicality in the amount of work needed to get us on par with making Nigeria one of the best aviation hubs across sub-Saharan Africa?
Well, I really don't think that the semantics of it matter that much. You know, when we focus on semantics, we are majoring in minors. You know, we want a world-class airport. For too long, passengers have justifiably complained about the state of Nigerian airports. Even what if you can call them recent, you know, structures at the airport in Lagos, Port Harcourt, Abuja, are not quite where they ought to be. You see, carousels not working. People are complaining about the lack of air conditioning, you know, and all of those things. Toilets,
at some points, the roofs were also leaking.
Yeah, and you know, bad toilets. I've never used a toilet in any Nigerian airport because of this. So now, the government has listened and saying, okay, you know what, our people deserve the best, because our people travel out there, they see quality, right? Apart from that, the airports are the gateway to foreign direct investment in Nigeria. Is the first portal into this country that international citizens see when they come to Nigeria. So we want the best for Nigeria. So let's reconstruct this airport totally. Maybe Nigerians would have preferred if the minister said we are constructing a new airport, because he had taken time to explain. There's also an explainer video out there. It's not a renovation. It's a total reconstruction of the airport. It's like building afresh. And that figure comes to about 500 million. I was not involved in the process, you know, so it's not really mine to defend. But $500 million compared to what other nation states are spending on the same kind of project is extremely fair. What we should be more concerned about is accountability for these figures. Oh, you've told us you're going to spend $500 million. We hope that we are going to see at the end of 22 months value for that money. I think that's where Nigerians should be concerned about.
It's also on the time frame. You've touched on it. 2 years with the amount of work, particularly with the rainy seasons as well.
Yeah.
What's the guarantee that we'll be able to complete such a humongous amount of work in 24 months?
Ordinarily, it should have been less, you know, but I'm sure it's going to take this time because, you know, you have to manage also. Flights cannot stop.
Exactly.
You know, so I'm sure there'll be periods when they'll only be able to work at night. There are periods when work will automatically even stop, you know, because of the flow of traffic and all of that. But let's give it a while and see. The project, I don't know if it started, but I trust the Honorable Minister, you know, to do what is right by Nigerians.
I'll come back to you again for channels. It's important at every point of our conversations, particularly with a very savvy social media age that we're in, to remind viewers of ways to better interact with the NCAA, or also have any of their complaints out there for attention to be drawn to it.
Yeah, we have cpd at ncaa.gov.ng, cpd.nca.gov.ng. That's our consumer complaints portal. We have the airlines onboarded on the portal, so we have very swift complaints resolution. We have our telephone lines 0905 5029 506. You can call in 24/7. You have someone on the phone to respond to your complaints. We have consumer protection officers at 23 airports around Nigeria. We have our consumer protection desk. You can walk into any of the NCAA offices if you have a problem and you have someone to resolve the problem, or go with you to the airline or service provider, you know, to help you, you know, resolve your problems.
Now, we have a little less than 5 minutes to wrap up the conversation, and just to, you know, judge the level of work that you're saddled with as a regulatory body. I know you guys have been around since 1999 when the Act of Parliament brought the NCAA into function. You also have an act governing the mandates of the NCAA. Overarchingly, what's this mandate again, and how well? I know you're with them, it's been 3 years down the line since this administration came on board. How would you summarize the work at hand?
First off, it's by December this year, I'll have spent 2 years.
2 years, okay.
I'm sure people think it's 3 years because of the things we have achieved in such a short time.
Probably.
You know, yeah, and thanks to the committed personnel at the NCAA and the forward-thinking vision of Captain Chris Najomo, who is the Director General of Civil Aviation. The task before us is not an easy one. And, you know, maybe because my department is front-facing, people get to see a lot of what I do, but we have 11 directorates and 11 directors at the NCAA. Each one of them doing fantastically well. Fantastically well. There's Directorate of Air Traffic Regulations, there's Aerodrome and Aerospace Standards, there's licensing, there's even the DFA, the finance, the DAFSEC. DAFSEC is aviation security. They regulate FAN AFSEC. You know, people are saying that this is the best the NCAA has ever been. The airlines are saying this is for the first time we are feeling truly regulated, right? You know, last night I had one of my colleague directors call me and said, you know, you're really now regulating the industry and I'm proud of what you're doing. And I told him I'm also proud of what you're doing. So, but again, we're not going to just pat ourselves on the shoulders and relax and feel like, yeah, we've done commendable work, but we are not even 40% where we ought to be yet. And we will not rest on our oars until we have achieved the 100%. Because
what's this 100%? What's the vision?
To regulate an industry that operates world-class standards, safety-wise and economic-wise. That's our vision.
And so far you're at 40% of that vision.
Personally, this is how we rate ourselves. You know, compared to where we started from, or what we met on ground, people could think that, oh, you guys have done fantastic. But for us, the vision we have, in alignment with my DG's action plan and the Honorable Minister's 5-point agenda and the renewed hope agenda of Mr. President, there's still a lot more work to do. Because you see, already we are the best in Africa. But, you know, being the best in Africa is not our goal. We want to be the best in the world. We want to come to a point where the Nigeria civil aviation industry is the reference point for other CAs across the globe.
Well, that's a fine place to leave it, Mr. Michael Achimbugu. I must thank you for your objectivity on the program. And Ifueko Abdul Malik, congrats once again on your promotion.
Thank you.
We wish you all the best.
Thank you very much.